We are to felicitate Dr. Raman Sukumar sir for his presence and for agreeing to be our keynote speaker for Dharitri Youth Conclave 2024. Here is a memento so that you remember, sir, you are a beautiful and integral part of our family. Thank you so much for your presence and time and words. Could we have a big round of applause for sir, please? Thank you so much.
I am truly humbled to be here today. I'm truly humbled. To be in an audience of very young people and to learn that Dharitri has organized a youth conclave, because the future of the world is obviously with the youth. And I see that the youth have turned out in such large numbers. I'm also truly humbled to be here in the presence of Srimati Jamuna Tuduji, who has worked for the protection of the forests of Jharkhand. I feel a very close connect with her, with my co-panelists, and with everyone here. When Satpathy ji called me about 2 months ago and told me to talk about climate change and elephants, I first thought to myself, how do I connect the elephant and climate change? Elephant is the elephant, as you know, and climate change is something that is holding center stage at all levels today, from the international right down to the local levels today. And the COP29 is going on in Azerbaijan. It almost ended in a failure, but there is some partial success that was achieved yesterday. My thoughts actually went back to the link between the elephant and climate in our ancient literature, or I would say our ancient poetry. Kalidasa's poetry is very eloquent when it likens a herd of elephants, the arrival of a herd of elephants, to the arrival of the monsoon in India. And the Sangam poems speak about how a herd of elephants that is crossing over a mountain range, it's like the dark monsoon clouds that rolls over the hills. So the elephant and the climate has had a very intricate connection in our imagination since ancient times. So it's very easy to connect elephants and climate. How do you connect it with climate change? That is going to be the challenge, and I'll try to speak about it today. You know that since the past about 30 years or so, elephants in the state of Odisha, the neighboring state of Jharkhand, they are causing major management challenges. This is not only to the government, the forest department, the wildlife officials, but right down at the level of the villages, the local communities, with what we see as, or we term today as, human-wildlife conflicts. In the 1980s, when I began my research on elephants, I did research on conflicts, but the levels of conflict were much, much, much lower than what it is today. In the early 1980s, we used to think about poaching for ivory, and poaching for ivory for tusks was prevalent mostly in the southern part of India, not so much in other parts of India. And that was the major point of discussion at that time. But since the late 1980s, elephants in the country have been changing their movement patterns. They have been moving out of the forest areas. They are going out into the agricultural landscapes. They're going into human settlements. They are going into villages. They are breaking into houses in search of food grains and salt and sometimes country-made liquor. They are breaking into Food Corporation of India godowns. And whole scale they are leaving certain states, especially Jharkhand and Odisha. And they are marching westward into Chhattisgarh, to Madhya Pradesh, and most recently into Maharashtra, Gadchiroli district. In fact, you must have read in the media a few weeks ago that in Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh, a herd of 10 elephants, a herd was found dead after they had consumed kodo millet. Initially, there was a lot of suspicion as to what had happened. People suspected foul play, that the elephants had been poisoned by the local people, by the farmers. But when I first read about this incident, my thoughts did not go in the direction of foul play at all. It went back to an article I had read in 1983 about a similar incident of a herd of 14 elephants that had died in 1933. In 1933, in Tamil Nadu, they had eaten kodo millet and something had poisoned these elephants. The reason I'm mentioning this is that there is a link between climate change and this particular incident of elephants being poisoned. This is something that I then conveyed to the government of Madhya Pradesh, that it most probably is because of fungal poisoning, a mycotoxin. And the postmortem reports came out, they found that it was exactly that. It was a toxin that was produced by a fungus that had caused the death of this. The reason I'm mentioning this is that this year, last month, you had a big cyclonic depression that came into Odisha. And Odisha, with climate change is going to suffer from severe cyclones. It's a topic that I'll come to. But that cyclonic system brought so much of moisture into Odisha and that went into Madhya Pradesh. There were certain rains when the farmers had harvested the millet, and millet is also obviously also grown in Odisha. And it had caused this problem. Not only elephants can die, your livestock can die, cattle can die, people can be poisoned. This is something that is fairly well known in the literature today. So climate change is bringing new challenges.